You're listening to the Racer to Racer podcast presented by Race 92. Race 92 is a vintage-inspired racing apparel brand specializing in celebrating vintage race culture and adapting to motorsports today. Check out race92.com to see the many different shirts and other merchandising options we offer, including this great shirt I have on right now. I'm your co-host, Aaron McAtee. Our other co-host, you may have seen him walking out of a great clips with a big old smile on his face. You've seen him at a dirt track. He is the man, the myth, the legend, Scott Bowie. Hey, Scott, how are you?
Good, Aaron. How are you?
I am doing great. We have a great show today. Our guest is none other than Paul Goldsmith. Great guy. Before we get into that, I do want to say make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere else our podcast can be found.
Yeah, and I just want to thank everybody. Our numbers. Not that we do it for numbers, but I noticed that several of people out there watch these videos or listen to them immediately upon coming out within the first couple of hours. And, we're getting a few more views and a few more listens. And I just want to say thanks to everybody. This is something we're doing for fun, and we hope people enjoy it. And we just thank you for allowing us to do it.
Absolutely, and I know back in May I had and I haven't talked about this really. We talked about it a little bit during the Paul Page interview, but I had an individual come up to me and he was like, "Are you Aaron?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was just like, "Do I know this person?" And he was like, "You're on the Racer Razor podcast," and I was just blown away. So whoever you are out there, thank you so much. Send us a message or something, but really appreciate it. It was really cool to have someone come up to us really that. And that was pretty early on. We were maybe 5 or 6 episodes into that point.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And not that you're going to see me out too much unless you're at the racetrack, but if you come to a midget or sprint car race I'm at, or an IndyCar race, I'll be in Nashville for sure. Hit me up. Please say hi.
Oh, absolutely. So, like I said, great guest today, Paul Goldsmith. What a great guy.
Yeah, how about that? He was a great guy, and I'll be very honest with you. Paul Goldsmith is a name I'd heard for a long time, and I'd known a little about his accomplishments, but I didn't really know much about Paul. And I can't say I still know a lot about Paul today, but I know a lot more about him. And a couple things that really struck me. One, this guy, I really appreciate the way he approached racing from just talking to him, kind of the business-minded part of it. Just, it was a job. He had to figure out a way to get it done, and he found it was a good way to make money. Impressed the fact that man's, I believe, 95 and still goes to work every day. Every day. And just, and thankful that he would take time out to speak with us. He's very kind of him, and we had a pretty nice lighthearted moment when he was talking about teaching someone to fly, and that was good. And I just want to publicly, thank him. And wow, what a great guest!
Oh yeah, and I've heard a lot of people say he's one of the most underrated race car drivers of all time. I mean, pretty much everything the guy got in. I mean, he won. He was the last one to win Daytona on the beach, and he actually was the last one to win in a stock car, but he also was the only person to win in a stock car and on a motorcycle.
Yeah, and again, that goes back to the way he approached it. If you just listen to him talk about his approach to it, it was really like he would observe and he would approach it in a manner and just figure it out. And we always hear, well, this guy, today it's always, well, that guy's good on pavement, he's probably not good on dirt. That guy's good on dirt, he's not good on pavement. Hey, Paul, like so many of those guys, was just a racer, and I think like a lot of guys would be today if given the opportunity, just racers. And he excelled at everything he did, and it was just again, it was really appreciated to be able to hear his story.
No, and he talks about he obviously got started in motorcycle racing. He talks about working very closely with the original Harley Davidson individuals. I don't know their names, but obviously Harley and Davidson.
Right.
So, and he talked a lot about that, and that was something that still means a lot to him to this day.
Yeah, and you can tell those relationships did mean a lot to him then, and they, like you said, to this day, and not only with them, but just with Smokey and just so many different people that he met along the way. You could tell those relationships, like they meant something to him because they took a chance on him.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely not one of our longer interviews. It's definitely one of the shorter ones. But definitely quality there, not quantity for sure.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so before we get into that, recent racing news, obviously no IndyCar race. There was NASCAR race, 2 NASCAR races at Pocono. Man, I thought Kyle Larson was going to get that first one.
Yeah, it just sometimes the dice tumble the wrong way for you in auto racing, and he blew a tire and he ran second. I don't know if he ran second. I forget where he finished, to be honest with you. But the next day he starts in the back.
Right.
Starts in the back, gets into a crash, tears up the nose. And when the funny part is the guys who ran 1-2 in that race, Kyle Busch had transmission problems. And Kyle Larson runs second with damage to the car. And he just, again, just did a great job. And tonight, I think he's running a sprint car in Ohio, or excuse me, Pennsylvania, because it's Pennsylvania's sprint week. Sorry. And so it'd be interesting to see how he does tonight. But yeah, just again, another workmanlike performance out of him. And man, how about Hendrick Motorsports though? I mean, they're pretty hot. And it's funny, is there, the guy that everybody thought was going to be the hottest driver, and Elliott is the one who's not, winning the races, oddly enough. But I'm sure that's going to change at some point. So, Hendrick is definitely on the upswing.
Absolutely. And SRX was at Daytona, Eldora. SRX was at Eldora, and we were just talking about that because my dad went there. But I don't know if you saw the some of the TV coverage they did for that. But real funny part, Hinchcliffe was doing the TV because they take turns or whatever, and he was interviewing Stewart during the green. Do you see that?
Yeah, that's, if you think about it though. I mean, the spotters talk to the drivers all the time.
Yeah,
under
I know,
green,
but it was great. He was like, "I'm about to give your little bro an education here in about one lap."
Right. No, that was
Please
funny.
hold.
No, that's funny. And obviously Tony and Jack Hewitt probably know that place better than any two other humans alive, and Tony just so good there. And but it was, Marco Andretti really ran well there, and Halio run third, which was great. And Keith Coons was a celebrity crew chief, and 3 of the cars he was taking care of was Halio and the one gentleman just won the race over in Mid Ohio, or won the race I think at Watkins Glen or somewhere. What's his name? We talked about trying to get him on the show. Ernie Francis Jr.
Ernie Francis, yes. Yep.
Ernie Francis Jr. And then I forget who Kanan maybe was the third driver, possibly. I don't remember who the third driver was, but I saw Keith Coons was talking on social media how grateful he was to be able to work with someone like Halio because of Halio's energy and his positive spirit. Right. And I thought that was great to see. And then Cody Swanson put on a show, as I knew he would, because Cody Swanson is probably the most overlooked driver of his generation, I feel. The guy has won so much in USAC competition, and he's winning in stock cars too now. And Unfortunately, for some reason, it just never seems to go his way as far as getting to the upper levels for some reason. But I was glad he was able to show that he can race with those guys in a setting like that. So that was good, and that was really good to see.
And hopefully, the series will help some people like that, or especially Ernie Francis Jr.
Yeah, Ernie Francis Jr. Yeah,
obviously a great driver, and I think he won the Trans Am Championship like 7 times, which is pretty amazing.
Right. Yeah, and he won. I forget what series. There's so many of them. But he won one of the open wheel series races over the weekend too. So I mean that's great to see. And it was the day after I believe he ran at Eldora. But and it was a good show. Paul Tracy destroyed everything around him, which was good for the fans, I guess. It's a little tough on Ray's budget, but I see the viewership was 1.3 million, which is big numbers today.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's real good. So, hats off to Ray for putting that series together, and hopefully we can have Ray on here sometime. But yeah, it's impressive what they're doing. I see they're at Raceway Park now. They were taking video of all the damaged cars that they got to work on this week as they're getting ready for racing at Indianapolis Raceway Park this weekend.
Yep, but I'm sure that'll be a great race too. Definitely reminds me of the IROC, and I'm guessing that's what they were trying to do, be like the old IROC races.
Yeah, and for anybody who doesn't know, Ray was part of the crew that helped restart IROC in the early 80s.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
That's how Ray come on the scene. Really, he was there, and Les Richter was kind of in charge of all that. And, it was just they took kind of the same thing. They had to build the shop out as well as build cars, and they had a very short time period to do it. And both of my brothers were involved in that, getting that series back going again. And that's when I first heard about Ray from them. And then Ray, used his experience he got from that and went on to become a legend.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think without any further ado, we'll go ahead and get into the Paul Goldsmith interview.
Certainly. Everybody, please enjoy. Paul's a great listen.
Our guest today is a true living legend. He is in the Motorcycle Hall of Fame and the Motorsports Hall of Fame. He won motorcycle races at the Daytona Beach Road Course as well as the dangerous Langhorne Speedway. He won the final stock car race on the Daytona Beach Road Course in 1958 and later drove in 6 Indy 500s, 1958 being his first. We're joined by Paul Goldsmith. Hey, Paul, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm surviving, still kicking.
Hey, I tell you what, I'm hope that I'm in as good a shape as you are when I'm 75.
Well, I'm only 95 and a half. What the heck? I'm going to retire though when I hit 100.
Oh, is that when you're finally going to retire, when you hit 100?
I was thinking about it. 100 should be enough.
So I'm Aaron. So we're joined by Scott.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Scott, good to hear from you.
It's so great for you to take our call today. Thank you so much. You were someone we just wanted to talk to for a brief period of time. So thank you.
Well, glad to do it.
So talk a little bit, Paul, about when did you first get interested in racing, and what was and my understanding is you first raced motorcycles, right?
That's right. I live in St. Clair Shores, Michigan. That's a suburb of Detroit. And I used to race every Saturday night or Sunday afternoon, different fairgrounds around. They'd have a motorcycle race. And that's the way I made a living. Mm-hmm. And so I had to go race or I didn't eat very good.
When did you, so what drew you to racing? Was it a paycheck, or was it that you just you loved riding motorcycles at the time and you saw an opportunity to be able to make money doing something that you love to do?
Well, I had a 45 cubic inch motorcycle. It was built for the military, and I used to go out and play around with it at Little Hill there in Detroit. I can't remember the name of it. And I was doing pretty good with it. And a fellow told me, says, they're going to have a race there in Detroit. You should go there and race. So I went over there. And I think I finished third. And I made 27 or $37. I don't remember. I thought, boy, this is easy money. And that's when I started racing.
And it wasn't long after that you got hooked up with the Harley Davidson, as in the actual Harley and the actual Davidson.
Well, I met Walter Davidson, and through the Harley dealer in Detroit. And he took me to Milwaukee and introduced me to Walter, and Walter had heard what I'd been doing. And once in a while, Walter would meet me, and then we'd go to the race. So I traveled a little bit with Walter Davidson.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Just it's very interesting to me because you guys were truly pioneers. I mean, you were learning on the go. Even Harley Davidson was learning on the go, and I assume they were using racing as ways to make their product better.
Well, they wanted to run that Harley in that race, which was a 45 cubic inch, and that was the max size of engine you could race with. And Walter Davidson used to go to just about all the races and check engines and things like that before they let you race. And I forget how he sometimes would have to take the head off of the cylinder and they'd measure it to make sure we didn't have it oversized and things like that. That's what Walter Davidson did at all the races.
Wow. And then how long did you race motorcycles for? About 10 years, 9 years, something like that?
I really don't remember, to tell you the truth.
Did you, and you figured out pretty quick you were good at racing, I assume. I mean, you had a lot of success very, very quickly in the motorcycles.
Yes, as soon as I started, I was winning races and finished first, second, or third. And I did very well on a motorcycle.
Is there something that you can point to? I mean, was it your hand-eye coordination? Was it your just wanting to win that you felt like separated you maybe from the other guys?
Well, I think it was the way I practiced on a motorcycle before I started racing, just playing with it, and up hills and everything. And I think that's what really set me up to make a pretty good racer.
Yeah, and you were more than a pretty good racer. You were an amazing race car and motorcycle racer. So
if I didn't race, I didn't eat. So that's why I was probably a little better at it.
Yeah, and that's something that maybe younger people today don't understand is racing truly was something that you could make money at one time. Even in your what you would call the local level of racing. If you could get the right kind of owner and sponsors, $27, $37, $50, $100. I mean, that was good money.
Well, I can remember the first race I run, I made $27.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this is the easy way to do it. And that right after that's when I met Walter Davison, and I got really started. It was pretty good equipment. They made sure that I had a good engine all the time. And then I used to start taking it apart and fixing it up the way I wanted it. And I guess I always built it to race against them Indians. Back in them days, the Indian was a very popular airplane, or I mean a motorcycle.
Yeah, and they were fast.
Yeah. They were. Bobby Hill was the toughest, and then Bill Tooman, he was probably next on Indian. I can't remember many of the other ones.
And you guys raced on the same Daytona Beach course you raced the stock cars on, right? On the motorcycles?
Right. Yes, same on the beach, 2 miles up, and on the pavement 2 miles back down, and that back A1A road wasn't very smooth. It was pretty rough.
Right. Yeah, I was just watching on YouTube a video of you winning. It was actually you winning in the stock car, and you were the last winner, and I think that was 1958.
Yes, that was the last race that they had on the beach.
So did you ever get to actually race on the oval that they built?
Oh, you mean the Daytona Beach?
Yeah. No, I'm talking about. Did you ever actually race at the Speedway, like Daytona Speedway, the one that's there now?
Yes, I did. 2 or 3 times. I can't remember how I finished all the time, but I did pretty good with it.
You even ran that IndyCar race there, right? Did you run that?
Yeah. I finally, I can't remember the man's name, but had an IndyCar, and he wanted me to drive it. I can't remember his name. He was from New York.
What was that like running Daytona in a roadster?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it was just
like any other race.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
you know that's something I've kind of seen through your interviews and that's something I really appreciate about you. When people talk about going from this type of racing to another type of racing, your attitude seems to me that it always was. I'm just racing. It doesn't matter what I'm racing. Would I be correct at that?
Yeah, I think you're pretty close. It didn't make much difference if it was old modified or a good Indy car or what. Because the reason I was probably like that, I needed to make a living.
Right.
And that's how I did it.
And like you said, you ran for Ray Nichols, and you guys had a pretty long career together, right?
Yes, we did. How I met Ray Nichols was I got a phone call from the president of Pontiac, it was Bunky Knudsen, and he wanted to know if I'd come up and have lunch with him. Oh, hell yes, I would sure do that, So I went up and met him, and Ray Nichols was in his office, and that's when he told both of us, says, if you two will team up, whatever you need, I'll supply. And that's the way I started racing Pontiacs.
Wow.
So where along the lines did you meet Smokey Unick?
Let's see. I was racing motorcycle at the beach, and I needed to do a little work on my motorcycle, and somebody introduced me to Smokey. I can't remember who it was. And Smokey says, "Will you bring that motorcycle over to my shop and we'll fix it up?" So I went over there, and that's how I met Smokey. And from then on, he wanted me to stick around with him and race cars or whatever.
And that's a big honor from Smokey Unique
Oh,
in terms of he either liked you or didn't, right? Here there was really no gray area with Smokey, right?
No, he was a pretty nice man, as far as I
Yeah.
know.
Right. Absolutely.
Definitely an innovator.
Oh yeah. And his attention to detail was he had amazing attention to detail. I think that's what really set him apart. I feel
Well,
from some of the others.
I stayed at his house with him at Daytona. He said, "No, you come and stay with me." So I went to his house and stayed with him, and I can't remember his wife at that time, but she passed away a little later.
Yeah. And that so you basically got you're in NASCAR at this point. You even ran the convertibles. Which
Yeah,
what do you remember running the convertibles at all?
yeah, I run them once or twice. I didn't. I did pretty good with it.
Sure. Yeah.
I
I
think I
just
won a couple of races there in North Carolina.
yeah. I think you did when we were doing some research for the show. Man, the convertible years. That's an interesting time in racing right there. I think. But so
Yeah.
so you've worked with Smokey and you guys had this great relationship and you won a few races for Smokey, right?
Oh, golly, yes.
Yeah.
I think
And
the Daytona Beach one was with Smokey.
yeah.
Yes.
And so and then at some point you go to run Indy cars.
Yes.
But you really mainly only ran Indy. You only ran Indy cars just a handful of times, right?
And I believe the 500
about
was your
3.
first time. And the 500 was your first time in an IndyCar, right?
Yes, it was. Fact is, they didn't want me racing at one of them cars, Indy, because I didn't drive them on mile tracks and that.
Right.
And Bunky Newton, no, there was a famous racer. What the hell is his name? He was a good relation with Smokey. He worked for General Motors. I can't remember his name. I don't know. But he won Indianapolis quite a few times. I think three times.
Well, Foyt I know always took up for you for sure.
No, it wasn't. It was way before Foyt.
Okay.
I can't remember his name.
But so there was they didn't know if they wanted to let you run, but then obviously they figured out real quick you were going to be okay.
Yeah, the guy that won Indianapolis a couple of times, whatever his name is, I can't remember. Says he recommended me very well, and they want to make sure that I would run in that race.
Well, that's
He
great.
was the one that was representing me pretty good.
So you ran Indy, I think, 6 times. Is that right, Aaron?
Yeah, 6 times.
So
what was your first? What was the first time being? And obviously, media and everything was a lot different back than TV. Like people, I mean, I'm sure the 500 was on TV, but did it surprise you, like when you went to Indy that first year, how big of a deal it was?
I don't know. The reason I raced, I wanted to make a living.
That's right.
Right.
And that's why I probably, however or whatever I was racing, that I could do it. I even race horses.
Okay, I didn't know
wow.
that.
That's some real horsepower.
Yeah.
A standard bred racehorse. I've got a trophy here in my office from one of the races.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. That's really cool. So you've kind of ran everything.
friend of mine had a ranch in Daytona, or no, can't remember the name of the city, in the middle of Florida. And he had a bunch of racehorses, and he wanted me to stay there with him and give him a hand training these horses. So that's how I learned to drive a standardbred racehorse.
Wow. That's so. Were you in like the buggy type deal, or were you actually riding the horse?
No, in a buggy.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Standards. They call it standardbred racing.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know a lot about horse racing, but I understand exactly what you're saying, though.
Yeah.
When you were doing that, did you find any similarities between driving a car and and doing that?
It was a lot harder driving that horse.
Really?
You had to convince that horse that you were the boss.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of them were pretty ornery, I'd say.
That and I like you were saying, you were going to run kind of anything you could that paid good money. Of course, Indy was a great place to make money at the time. So you ran Indy, and you'd run Daytona and that, but then you seem to kind of keep your racing more to the north and run USAC stock cars and that after a while. And was there a particular reason for that, or are you just...
I met Ray Nichols, and he was with a AAA racing.
Yep.
And he had a shop here in Griffith, and I sort of came from Detroit down here every week to work on the car and learn more about it, and then pretty soon I just moved down here. I got tired of driving back and forth, so that's how I ended up moving down here.
How did the airport and the planes come about?
Well, I even flew an airplane in Detroit, and I would fly to Daytona and stuff like that. And I owned an airplane myself, and a fellow in Detroit taught me to fly, and he had 1,300 students, and he had a big flying school there at Detroit Airport, and that's how I got started flying. It was through him, and then I used to fly down here all the time, and finally got tired of flying down here, and I moved down here from Detroit, or St. Clair Shores.
I know back then there's a lot of drivers that started flying, and obviously like Bobby Unser. And I've heard a lot of crazy stories about Bobby Unser flying.
Who do you think taught Bobby Unser to fly?
You did?
Yep.
Oh wow, had no idea.
Yeah, I had no idea. That's awesome.
Now, are you proud of that, or?
Oh, I don't know. He wanted to buy an airplane, and he would fly with somebody else out there a little bit. And when I started to ride with him, I said, "You can't fly that way, shit, come on." And I made him learn how to really fly the airplane and be legal and all that.
Well, you probably saved his life. Is probably what you did.
Well, probably so. I don't know, because the way he was, it was not good. And I even sold him an airplane that I had. And
yeah, he was definitely one of a kind, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
And at some point, AJ Foyt flew as well. Did you teach him how to fly as well?
No, I didn't teach AJ. He learned. I went to his house one time. I was talking to him, and he was going to get I think I went flying with him when I was there. And then he met one of the guys there that would ride with him, and that guy really taught him to fly.
Did you, let me ask you this. Did you enjoy flying more than racing because racing was more of a way to make a living?
Well, you have to travel to race.
Right.
Right.
So I didn't want to drive a car to Daytona Beach and spend 2 days going down there when I could spend 3 hours and be there.
I like the way you think. I agree with that. Yeah, there's so many racers who have had planes over the years, and a couple of them I know, and they really love. I mean, they really fell in love with flying as much as the racing. It's something about it. Yeah, I've never wanted to be a pilot myself, but there's just something about it they just love.
Yeah, I learned in Detroit pretty well. They taught me pretty good, and it helped me travel. My golly, I used to fly out to California or wherever the race was, North Carolina or wherever. I'd always fly there.
Sure. Now, you were Joe Leonard's mentor, basically, right, for motorcycle racing?
Yeah, I even helped him motorcycle race.
Right. Yeah.
I was with Harley Davidson, and Walter and I was out at where he lived. What was the name of that town?
I'm not sure.
Well, anyway, it was right there near there, and I was with Walter, and that's how we got started, And I met Joe, and they wanted me to go out on the track. He was racing for a dealer that was a pretty famous Harley Davidson dealer, and he wanted me to lead Joe around the racetrack and teach him how I would go around the racetrack. And that's what we did on a mile track there at California. Can't remember the name of the track, though.
Right.
And I led him around that track. Oh, my God, I don't know how many laps.
Well, you must have been a good leader because he learned pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He really did.
I didn't realize his nickname, Pelican Joe, was that Foyt gave it to him because he would swoop in and take the money and leave that. That's what I didn't realize that. I saw a thing where Robin Miller was talking about that.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, Robin Miller said that Foyt nicknamed him that because nicknamed him Pelican because like a pelican, he would just swoop in and take all the money or the bread and then leave. Yeah, so
that's funny.
Well, I taught him how to fly and how to drive the race cars, I would say, and the motorcycles.
Do you
I think I was responsible for a lot of it.
Well, that's a good thing to be responsible for, right?
I guess.
Did you let me ask you this, and I know your mindset was, well, I'm trying to make a paycheck, but did you have a certain way you approach racing? I mean, was it an analytical way where you studied everything, or was it more of an aggressive style? Because you wanted some pretty, like tracks at Langhorne and that are very dangerous racetracks.
Oh, I won at so many racetracks you never believe. If I didn't win, I didn't eat. So.
Right. Would you say that you were a very analytical racer, like you studied it on the track, or that you were just more instinct?
No, I would just teach myself, and I take a look at other guys driving or racing a bike and see what they were doing, and I learned from watching them and things like that. I would guess.
So if you got to choose, did you enjoy racing cars more? Or did you enjoy racing motorcycles more?
Well, I think at the time and when I was needing money to live, motorcycles would probably be the number one. And then I started in the cars through Bunky Knudsen, and he came me up with Ray Nichols, and he says whatever we need, he would supply us with it. So that's what really set me off racing pretty good. I figured if I didn't race very good, Bunky Knudsen's not going to talk to me.
Right.
When was the last time you drove a race car? Was it was like 60? Was it 69? Was that when?
No, I have no idea.
No idea. No idea.
No, I don't remember.
So when you stepped away from racing, I mean, what was there a reason why you stepped away? Was it because you were getting more in the planes, or because maybe the risk? What was your main reason for quit racing?
I can't really. I just got too busy, I guess.
Right.
We used to build all the race cars for Chrysler just down the street here from me. And we'd build a car and turn it over to different racers in North Carolina. And like we built Richard Petty's cars.
Wow.
And,
I had no idea.
Well, he'll never admit it, but his race car, the first Pontiac he had, was built down the street here from me. And engines, why, we could rebuild engines and turn them over to whoever needed them,
Sure.
Whoever Pontiac would want us to supply the engine to.
Now, you mechanically wise, would I be wrong in saying that your mother had met another man, it's basically like your stepfather, is who kind of got you more into the mechanical side of things?
Absolutely.
And that's where you learned to build motors and work on things and that sort of thing, huh?
That's right.
Yeah.
Then I met Ray Nichols, and that moved me up another class of engines, you might say.
Right. Right.
So kind of looking back on your whole career, if someone were to ask you, like, what is the one, if there was one accomplishment that you were most proud of, or, one thing that you did, a race you won, would there be one in particular, or would it just be the fact that, you kind of had a dream, you made a living, and you had fun doing it?
Meeting Walter Davison at Harley Davidson, and him helping me with my engines and so on, because I could go race every weekend at these fairgrounds and make a real good living at it. So I would say Walter Davison helped me an awful lot.
Well, Paul, we're not going to take up any more of your time. Thank you so much for speaking with us. We know you're a very busy man. And again,
I make everybody else do the work around here.
Well, that's a job in itself. And I just want to say, for me personally, I really admire your generation, the hard work and your can-do attitude, and how you guys went about doing most of the things. Because you guys really were part of laying the groundwork for the racers today, and I just want to say thank you.
Well, I appreciate the talk and liking racing motorcycles. Why, I used to go to all the fairgrounds. It was having a fairground race, you know. That's
Right.
how I made a living.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay, we'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, Paul.
Bye.
Take care, Paul. Bye.